Have you ever wondered how the world plunged into one of its most devastating wars? The seeds of World War II were sown long before the first shots were fired. Let's take a step back to the Treaty of Versailles, signed in the aftermath of World War I. This treaty, meant to ensure peace, only planted the seeds of resentment, particularly in Germany, where harsh penalties and territorial losses festered a thirst for revenge. Simultaneously, political ideologies were being challenged and reshaped. The rise of fascism in Italy and Nazism in Germany were clear indicators of a brewing storm. Hitler's ascent to power in Germany was a crucial turning point. His charismatic leadership and exploitative rhetoric amplified the German people's resentment, laying the groundwork for a catastrophic conflict. Meanwhile, across the globe, the Japanese invasion of Manchuria signified aggressive expansionist policies, unsettling the delicate balance of power. And so, the stage was set for one of the bloodiest conflicts in human history. In 1939, a spark ignited the fuse, and the world was thrown into chaos. The fuse was lit with Germany's audacious invasion of Poland. It was a move that shocked the world and brought forth a new style of warfare known as blitzkrieg, or lightning war. This aggressive tactic was characterized by sudden, concentrated attacks intended to swiftly overwhelm the enemy. Poland, with its outdated military strategies, stood little chance against the German army's advanced tanks and air force. The world watched in horror as Poland capitulated in less than a month. This act of aggression was met with widespread condemnation. Britain and France, bound by their respective pacts with Poland, declared war on Germany. Yet, they could do little to help their Polish allies in the face of the blitzkrieg. The world was now at war, and it was a war unlike any seen before. As the conflict progressed, Germany turned its blitzkrieg westwards. The Low Countries and France were next. Despite possessing one of the largest armies in the world, France fell in a mere 6 weeks. The speed and scope of the German victories were as stunning as they were terrifying. Yet Britain remained. Isolated yet undaunted, Britain faced the onslaught of the German Air Force. The Battle of Britain ensued as the Royal Air Force valiantly defended their skies against the German Luftwaffe. It was a battle of attrition, of courage and determination. It was a testament to the indomitable spirit of the British people. Amidst the turmoil, a new alliance was forming. Germany, Italy and Japan, the Axis powers, were joining forces, their ambitions of global domination aligning. The world watched with bated breath as these nations flexed their military might. By 1941, the Axis powers seemed unstoppable. Their rapid conquests, bolstered by their advanced military strategies and technology, had left much of Europe and Asia under their control. The world was in the grip of a devastating conflict, the ramifications of which were yet to be fully understood. But the tides of war are unpredictable and ever-changing. Indeed, the course of World War II was dramatically transformed by a series of pivotal events that shifted the balance of power. One such event was the attack on Pearl Harbor by the Japanese on December 7, 1941. This unprecedented attack on American soil resulted in the United States abandoning its policy of isolationism and declaring war on Japan, thus officially entering the global conflict. The entry of the United States, with its vast resources and industrial capacity, marked a significant turning point in the war. Meanwhile, on the Eastern Front, the Battle of Stalingrad raged on from August 1942 to February 1943. It was a brutal battle of attrition, with both sides suffering heavy casualties. But ultimately, it was the Soviet Union that emerged victorious, repelling the German forces in what is often considered the bloodiest battle in human history. The defeat severely weakened the German army and marked the beginning of their retreat from Eastern Europe. In the warmer climes of North Africa, the Allies were making headway too. The North Africa campaign, stretching from June 1940 to May 1943, saw the Allied forces successfully push back the Axis powers, securing the Suez Canal and control of the Mediterranean Sea. This victory opened a new front for the Allies in Italy, leading to the Italian campaign. The Italian campaign, which kicked off in July 1943 with the invasion of Sicily, was another critical turning point. It led to the fall of Mussolini's fascist regime and Italy's subsequent surrender, taking one member of the Axis power out of the equation. These events marked significant turning points in the war, shifting the momentum towards the Allies. They changed the course of World War II, setting the stage for the final act of this global conflict. But as we'll see next, the war was far from over, and there were still many trials and tribulations ahead. Now, with the Allies gaining strength, the tide began to turn. The year was 1944, and the Allies had been planning a momentous assault that would go down in history as D-Day. This invasion, the largest amphibious assault ever undertaken, marked the beginning of the end for the Axis powers in Europe. Thousands of ships, planes, and soldiers converged on the beaches of Normandy, France, on June 6th. Despite the ferocious resistance, the Allies managed to secure a foothold, paving the way for a full-scale invasion of Western Europe. In the wake of D-Day, Paris, the City of Light, found itself once again in the spotlight. The liberation of Paris in August of 1944 was more than just a military victory. It was a symbolic triumph, a beacon of hope that the end of the war was within reach. The city, which had been under German occupation for more than 4 years, was finally free, its streets filled with jubilant crowds celebrating the departure of the German forces. Yet the path to victory was not without its hurdles. The Battle of the Bulge, fought in the winter of 1944, was the last major German offensive on the Western Front. It was a desperate attempt by Hitler to split the Allies in two and recapture the port of Antwerp. However, despite initial successes, the German forces were ultimately pushed back, suffering heavy losses. As the calendar turned to 1945, the Allies advanced into Germany, crossing the Rhine in March. The once mighty German war machine was now in retreat, its cities and infrastructure in ruins. The Allies pressed on, liberating concentration camps and revealing the full horror of the Holocaust to the world. The final push into Berlin was met with fierce resistance, but by April, the Soviet Red Army had surrounded the city. By the spring of 1945, the end of the war in Europe was in sight. The tide had indeed turned, and the fall of the Third Reich was imminent. But the cost of this victory, the lives lost and the horrors endured, would forever be etched in the annals of history. Yet the final chapters of this tragic conflict were still to be written. The year was 1945 and the end was in sight. Adolf Hitler, the instigator and driving force behind the war, was found dead in his bunker in Berlin in late April. The news sent shockwaves around the world. With their leader gone, Germany had no choice but to admit defeat. On May 7th, Germany signed an unconditional surrender at the Allied headquarters in Reims, marking the end of the war in Europe, but the war was not over. Japan, the other Axis power, continued to fight. The decision was made to use the most destructive weapon humanity had ever created, the atomic bomb. On August 6th, the first bomb was dropped on the Japanese city of Hiroshima, obliterating everything in its path. 3 days later, a second bomb fell on Nagasaki. The devastation was unimaginable, the human cost unbearable. The impact of these bombings was immediate and profound. Japan, seeing the futility of further resistance, agreed to an unconditional surrender. The formal ceremony took place on the deck of the USS Missouri in Tokyo Bay, and so the most destructive conflict in human history concluded. Nations would rebuild, people would heal, and the world would never be the same again. As we reflect on the events of World War II, we are reminded of the monumental scale of the conflict and its far-reaching implications. The war, sparked by the aggression of Axis powers, engulfed the globe in a bitter struggle of ideology, power, and survival. The early years were marked by the rapid expansion of Germany and Japan, only to be met with fierce resistance and turning points like Stalingrad and Midway. The tide turned as Allied forces pushed back, leading to the eventual downfall of the Axis powers. The end of the war came at a great cost, with millions of lives lost and countries left in ruins. Yet, it also resulted in significant shifts in global power dynamics. In the aftermath, the United Nations was established, aiming to prevent such a devastating war from ever happening again. However, the end of World War II also marked the onset of the Cold War, a new kind of conflict that further shaped our world. The echoes of World War II can still be heard today, reminding us of the depths humanity can sink to. but also its capacity for unity, resilience, and hope. Though the world hoped never again, the aftermath of World War II shaped the geopolitical landscape for years to come. If you enjoyed this historical journey, don't forget to like this video and subscribe for more 10-minute timelines.